10 seconds is up. Blake, I think. All right. Okay. We're on now. So, Blake, what I suggest that we do is introduce ourselves.
Yes.
And then start with the conversation. So, I'll start. And hello, everyone. I am David Ha'ivri. I am located in my home in Kfar Tapuach in the Shomron. And there are many overlapping or parallel types of terminology or names that are used commonly regarding a lot of the issues here in, some say Judea and Samaria, that's a term that I would use, and some say the West Bank, that's a term that other people use for the same exact region. And some would call my community a community or a town or a village, and some would call it a Jewish settlement in the West Bank. Some might even call it an illegal Jewish settlement in the West Bank. So often I try to make that clear and show the connection for people who are not familiar totally with the parallel existence of all of these conversations. Sometimes it's a little strange because people might even be here and not realize that they're located in the same place that they know by a different name. So again, I'm David Ha'ivri, and I'm a resident of Kfar Tapuach in the Shomron, which for some would make me a Jewish settler.
Did we lose David? Okay. Well, I am Blake Stillwell. I am the communications officer for the Near East Foundation. I am based in Nablus or Shechem, as David was talking about. The Near East Foundation is the United States' oldest non-sectarian and apolitical development organization. We were founded in 1915 to help Armenians fleeing Turkey, but we've evolved since then. We are no longer a relief organization. We are a development organization and a sustainable development organization. And I am working out of the Nablus office of the Near East Foundation, one of our 8 countries that we work in. And I do all sorts of media-related, social media, and traditional media work. No, David, I can't see you. But so I was invited here to kind of act as an official moderator, but Jalan wasn't feeling well, so David and I were going to have the discussion. So we're right now, I guess we're just waiting for David to reconnect. Does anybody have any questions? I saw a couple of comments about the Near East Foundation and our Olive Oil Without Borders project.
Blake, can you hear me now?
There he is.
Blake, you were very still, and I thought that you were just being very polite and letting me talk away, and then I realized that your frame was frozen.
I'm glad you're back. Just tap dancing a little bit for the crowd.
Did you hear my whole speech? I don't know what time what point it got stuck.
I think you were talking about the differences in what people call things as to what they're referring to.
Well, all right. So in short, everyone, I introduced myself, and Blake, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
I did. I did while you were away. So
okay. Okay, everyone. We were meant to be meeting with Selin from Turkey today, and she is not feeling well. So we decided to postpone our conference to next week at the same time. But in order not to disappoint people who were not aware of this being postponed, and to take advantage of the meeting time and have a trial run, we're having the conversation anyway. So I welcome everyone who's here and welcome any questions.
Welcome.
If anyone would like to ask either of us, or if you'd like to join in, we have room for 2 more speakers.
Well, We could talk. We could get started a little bit, David. How would you describe Israel and Turkey's relationship right now?
I think that Israel and Turkey's relationship obviously is in a low point. It's not the lowest point that it's been over the past few years. The relationship, I think, is on the way to improving. Hopefully, to go back on track to the previous positive relationship that existed. But over the past few years, since the events of the Marmara flotilla, the relationship was poor, and the poor relationship affected a lot of positive interaction that existed between Israel and Turkey beforehand.
Do you think that? That's the end of it? There's a future for Turkey and Israel, right?
I think that there is a future, and I hope that there's a future for relationships between all countries in the region. And I think that both countries, Israel and Turkey, have interest in ensuring a positive relationship between them.
Well, historically, the relationship has been very good. I mean, Turkey was one of the first countries to recognize Israel after independence, and the Turkish government has always more or less had a good neighbor policy with their neighbors, including Israel. And I mean, you may say that Turkey and Israeli relations are in a slump, but as far as I know, the Turkish people can come to Israel and get a visa at the border like everyone else almost. And Israelis can come to Turkey for a month without a visa. So things have to be at least pretty good from a person-to-person standpoint, right?
Things could be good. There's a good foundation for a positive relationship, but currently there are some bad vibes or even bad regulations between both countries. I had a experience a few months back. A friend of mine in Turkey wanted to send me something in the mail, in the regular mail, not in the email. In today's internet platforms of interacting with people like we're doing right now, it just becomes very easy to contact someone on Twitter or Facebook or now on Vonvo or Skype and Gmail and whatever it might be. And sometimes you forget that there are physical barriers or policies between countries that make normal interactions very difficult. And here, a friend of mine in Turkey wanted to send me a package in the regular mail, and the price of postage to send from Turkey to Israel was about 10 times more than postage from Turkey to Saudi Arabia, which is much further away.
Earlier in the comments before we started, somebody posted a comment that said, Israel supporters don't trust the Turkish government to be a neutral arbiter. Is that true, do you think?
If Israel... I think that the Israeli people in general, there are those who say that the Jewish people are paranoid and have good reason to be paranoid because of the historical experiences that Jewish people have had interacting with the nations and relying on assistance of other nations. So Israeli people might look at all different types of foreigners with a bit of a distance. And in today's atmosphere in the Middle East, with the rise of the Muslim fundamentalism and Islamic movements and so forth. I think that many Israelis are concerned with the attitude of the Turkish government and its feelings towards Israel.
Do you think that the United States could still assume the role of a neutral arbitrator?
In my opinion, the United States it's very difficult for the United States to understand the currents in the Middle East. The Middle East is a very different type of culture and atmosphere. Most Americans, not like yourself, who travel internationally and spend time in foreign countries and have the opportunity of meeting the people around you and learning about their culture and so forth. Most Americans never have that opportunity in their entire life, and they're very centered on their own type of culture, and very naively believe that everyone is just like they are, and everyone has the same aspirations and the same culture and so forth. So I think that it's hard for Americans to understand Middle East, and if it's hard for them to understand Middle East, of course, it'd be hard for them to work out differences in this region.
Mm-hmm. In general, what is the feeling, in your opinion, of course, of Israelis towards the Turkish government?
Excuse me, ask again. I'm reading the comments and listening to you at the same time.
What is your opinion? In your opinion, what is the general feeling of the Israeli people toward the Turkish government?
Here, I'll answer you and Larry together. Larry's asking about the Mavi Marmara incident and Israel's apology and so forth, which kind of keyed off the current bad relations between Israel and Turkey. And first of all, I agree with a lot of what Larry is saying, that Israel was right to deal with the situation as it did, and it was and I'll go on and expand on that. The situation was a very complicated, like everything is in the Middle East. Everything is complex and complicated and not simple, and that situation was not simple, and Israel was in the right to deal with it as it did, but still, I don't know if we could say in retrospect that Israel dealt with it in the best manner. And obviously, historically, that keyed off a deterioration in relations between Israel and Turkey, which was very bad for both countries. So, of course, we're sorry that happened. It would have been much smarter at the time if the Turkish government would have used its powers to protect its friendly relations with Israel and keep its political activists from crossing over into Israeli territory or Israeli waters to carry out their demonstration. And maybe if the Turkish government would have been more responsible for its own people at that time, the events would have looked differently. But here we're in the now and not in the then.
I'm gonna try a little bit to kind of fill in Jalan's role. Try to take it from the other side for a little bit. And someone said that Erdogan has been treacherous towards Israel. I'm wondering, historically, has Erdogan and the AKP really been treacherous towards Israel? I mean, there's a lot of economic interaction going on. There were a lot of joint military operations that went on, training operations. I know that Turkey did bar Israel from one of them, but I mean, some cooperation is better than none, right?
Now, is that a statement or a question? In any case,
it's not as though the Erdogan government has completely shut off relations with Israel or allow them to be the worst that they've ever been. So I'm just wondering, how can Erdogan be seen as treacherous?
I don't know if the term treacherous is a proper term to use in this type of relationship, the relationship between countries. Erdogan is the head of state of Turkey, and countries have interests, and so the main question towards Erdogan should be not his loyalty towards Israel, but the damage that he's causing to his own country by not maintaining good relations with a country that can provide a benefit to his country. And I think that Israel can provide a benefit to Turkey. It has in the past. And the relationship between the two countries that continued during this period, during this bad period, still the relationship continued. The reason that it continued was because both countries had a strong interest in maintaining that relationship.
Someone asked about the BDS movement. Do you know if Turkey supports the BDS movement?
I think the BDS is a European and an American movement. It's not very obvious in non-Western countries.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how effective it really is in any case. It makes a lot of noise, and it causes bad publicity and so forth. It might be counterproductive to their own goals too, because as much as they advertise and call for people to boycott products from Israel, of course there are many people who support Israel and are intentionally buying from Israel because of the BDS. So I'm not even sure if they have the ability to actually reach any goal in their own objectives.
Yeah. There was an article in the Chicago Tribune today that called the BDS movement "More Bark Than Bite." Actually, so there may be a lot of truth to what you're saying. I guess time will tell, right?
But I think that the countries in this region, in the Middle East and in the East and in Africa and Asia and so forth, are not really mixing this politics with commercial interests and so forth. Countries have interests. There are products that they need. The people who are speaking out against the BDS always bring up the issue of Israeli technology that is very well used in the medical community, in hospitals, and in high tech and computers and cell phones and so forth. So there are many people, even amongst the BDF activists, who are using Israeli technology because there's no real alternative to that, or it's so popular that people don't even realize that they're using it. They've got the computers with the Intel inside, and you've got all of these instant message systems that came out of Israel and so forth.
I just want to remind everybody watching that if you have a question or you want to add something to the discussion with David, you can go out of the chat room and come back in as a speaker to ask a question and join us up here. So feel free to do that.
That's right. Listen, Blake, by the way, I'm not sure what time frame we had planned originally, but I apologize. Today I'm only going to be able to be on until 7:30 my time, which is about 10 minutes.
Yes.
And I'd like to remind the people here that we meant for this meeting to be with Asylum from Turkey, and she's not feeling well today, so she was not able to be with us. But we plan to hold the same meeting next week at the same time. So you're all welcome to come back. And
with a much stronger representative of the Turkish point of view, by the way. She's much better than I am. I was meant to be as a subtle arbiter between a good conversation between two very knowledgeable people, and I apologize for my shortcomings. But do come back next week. It would be a really good discussion.
Friends in the viewers department, I see some names of people who I know and some people who are interacting with me on social media, on Twitter or on Facebook. If you're not, please feel free to follow me. My username on Twitter is Haivri, Haivri. That's my name. And David Haivri on Facebook. And feel free to send me questions throughout the week or right now. And as Blake said, we have room for 2 more speakers. If you'd like to ask any questions now on camera, sign out as a viewer and sign back in on the video.
Mm-hmm. My Twitter handle is Blake Stillwell. My first name and last name together. And if you'd like to find out more about the Near East Foundation, just go to neareast.org, and you can see all the wonderful work we do in developing sustainable communities all around the region. So please come check us out. I think our chat room is having a very lively discussion. Do you think Turkey is actually playing a detrimental role to Israel, David?
I think that Israel and Turkey really do have a lot of mutual interests in the region. I think that Iran is a concern, surely not only to Israel, but to most countries throughout the Middle East. And their development of nuclear arms is really a threat to the international community as well. I think it's really missing the point when we're an overkill with the focusing on Iran's threat to Israel, as if Iran is threatening only Israel and not the entire nation. Here, the entire region. Here, Blake, you're sitting in the Palestinian community in Shechem. If Iran were to attack Israel, then the Palestinian community would suffer just the same as the Jews.
Just as much.
So surely Iran is not threatening Israel on behalf of the Palestinians. It's because if Iran were to attack Israel, they'd be attacking the Palestinians along with them. And the other Sunni countries in the region, in the Gulf states, and Saudi Arabia and Turkey are all aware of the threat of Iran. So there's a mutual interest here. Besides, for other types of businesses, like the businesses that your organization is promoting, there's a lot of commercial interaction that both communities can enjoy.
You have to be the member of the neighborhood to be a productive member of the neighborhood. I mean, you can't just go around threatening people and causing problems and be welcomed in the international community. A lot of the problems that are happening in the Gulf, in Bahrain and in Kuwait, are because of a lot of Iranian influence. I mean, they're trying to destabilize governments in the region, and I mean, Iran is at the heart of what's happening in Syria. They were at the heart of what's happening in Lebanon, and I mean, we all know that they're responsible for Hezbollah. So I just don't. I think it goes beyond the nuclear weapon problem as well.
I agree with you. And the issue of Syria too, which is a very sorry situation, also is a interest to Turkey, no different than it's an interest to Israel, because we all share borders with Syria, and we're all concerned with the refugee situation and with the violence that's going on there. So that too is a mutual interest. There are many more mutual interests between the countries than there is really a conflict.
I'm looking at a comment from Philip. If Iran is willing to send Arabs to paradise, practice of its jihad, that's just... Sunni countries do not get along with Iran. And you can see it. The battleground is Iraq right now. You can see it every day. There are new bombings in that the poor people's country. But the destabilization of any country in the region is a threat to Israel and to Turkey, actually.
Yes, Yes, it is. All right. Listen, I'm almost about to be departing from this conversation now. I apologize to everyone that I'm going to be needing to go. And Blake, it was great speaking with you and great meeting you.
You too, David. I hope to talk to you next week.
Great, and we'll interact some on the way too. And again, everyone, please feel free to contact me on the other mediums and send any questions that you have. And
yes, please.
I'm glad that you all joined us. And welcome.
Yes, welcome, and please come back same day, same time next week, and we'll have a more Turkish Israeli oriented discussion.
Thank you, Blake.
Thank you, David.
I'm going to be leaving.